Gentlemen, please take your seats as the closing session is about to start. Thank you very much. Our moderators, please take your seats as the session is about to start. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, friends, thank you very much indeed for staying the course today. It has been a productive and a fascinating day, plenty of insight from a large number of speakers. Let us conclude our deliberations with a lively session, very similar to the start, that brings it all together. To emphasize our commitment and to remind us of the imperative to move forward with urgency and determination, as I said earlier this morning, while leaving no one behind. To start with, it is my pleasure to introduce Zainab Bangura, Director General of the office in Nairobi.
Distinguished guests, excellencies, I know I'm supposed to say thank you, everybody. You have a wonderful day. As the Director General of the United Nations at Nairobi, most people call me the landlady, but today I call myself your host. This is my compound, so thank you very much for coming. I belatedly welcome you to the home of the only United Nations headquarters in Africa and the Global South, and the global headquarters of the United Nations Environment Program. I feel very privileged and honored to contribute to the vital discussion. I was listening there and talking to my brother and colleague, the Minister for Botswana, on the discussions taking place in the context of the UN Science Policy Business Forum on the environment. It was very interesting. As the meetings were taking place, we were comparing notes. I was a former Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Health in my country before joining the UN here. I would like to specifically refer to tracking financial flows to nature, a subject critical to Africa, and particularly to Kenya, which I call home for the last 4 or more years. Kenya's leadership in environmental conservation, exemplified by the First Lady initiative to plant 500 million trees, reflects the profound importance of natural capital to our continent's economy and well-being. I was sharing a table this afternoon during the lunch with the First Lady, and we were talking to some of the guests, and people thought the decision by the president to plant 5 billion trees by 2030 was just a political statement. It's not. Because even in the compound, just take a look, we launched the reforestation. We've planted 2,000, Talia is here, my colleague, she's responsible. We planted 2,000 trees within the last 1 year. This compound was part of the Karura forest before it was given as a coffee plantation. Our commitment is to get it back to its original status, so that as you walk around, you can see all the animals and everything. And that's the intention. That's what Kenya is about, hoping that 30% of its land space can be forest by 2032. That's not a political statement. Each one of us is asked to make that commitment. And in Africa, where I come from, as you see me, I'm an African woman, In Africa, where natural capital is a cornerstone of livelihood and economic development, the gap in financial flows towards biodiversity conservation and ecosystem service needs urgent bridging. You know, I describe myself as a village girl. I come from a village as I speak to you. We don't even have a school there. I love it. But I know things have changed. When I was in elementary school, we used to go to the streams to get water to drink and do our laundry. We didn't have tap water. But now those streams are drying up. It was nature. That's what we live on. So we know that the climate change has affected us. And that's why we're more concerned on the people who are causing that. I don't think it's a matter of compensation, because when I say that, it's feel that you allow them to pollute more because they believe they'll give you money. But how can we change? And as you have discussed, the World Bank and the OECD highlights this financial gap with an annual global need estimated between 300 to 400 billion. But current investments are only around 78 to 91 billion. And I think everybody is saying how unfair it is. The Secretary General, if you listen to him over the years, can tell you the challenges you have in terms of supporting the climate change funding. It's not there. And I think it's very unfair for Africa. So we do believe nature-based solutions need to become a cornerstone of cost-effective strategy for bridging this financial gap. Investment in this solution can yield substantial social, economic, and environmental benefits, with returns on investment potentially as high as $9 for every $1 invested, and according to the World Bank. I listened to where is it, the Maasai, the gentleman from Maasai Mara, I think he's left. You know, as you're all aware, last year, we're having rain now, but last year, Kenya suffered from the worst drought in 40 years of its history. That tells you something. Now you see the rain is coming. But it tells you how uncertain it is and the disaster it has caused. I mean, every day you watch television in Kenya last year, you see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cattle dying. It's really wiped out an entire economy in northern Kenya with the animals that we lost. Now to conclude, through the United Nations presence in Nairobi, the biggest footprint in Africa, the seat of environmental multilateralism, we are committed to promote sustainable development and inclusive growth, ensuring that environmental actions leave no one behind, particularly local communities and indigenous population whose livelihood depend directly on the health of the ecosystem. Let us continue to dialogue and work to advance our commitment to a healthy planet and healthy future. Every day I wake up, I sleep, I think, what kind of planet am I going to leave for my grandchildren? And that's what the question we should ask ourselves. Climate change problem doesn't belong to one country. It's all of us. And we all mostly committed the crime. Let's work together to find solution. Because, you know, I come from Sierra Leone as Minister of Health when COVID came, and in Kenya, you don't have disease. Climate change has no borders. It doesn't need passports. It doesn't have visas. It goes across continents. It goes across nations. So if we fail to make decision, to support, to finance it, just remember it will not stop in Kenya. It's affecting Europe, it's affecting Asia, it's affecting America. Each one of us have a responsibility. Let's work together as a people to save our planet. Thank you.
Right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to invite our next speaker up to the podium to do a quick address from the podium. After that, we're going to settle back into the style we had this morning of those TED Talks. We've got 4 or 5 speakers who are going to grab a handheld mic, who are going to come up here and stand in the middle of the stage, and who are going to, with energy and verve, close this session out for us. But before we hear from them, I would like to invite Dr. Lemogang Kwape, the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Botswana, to the stage to give his closing remarks. Minister, come on up.
Thank you very much, moderator. I won't keep you long. I had a speech well written up, but I tore it apart in the last 5 minutes. And everything she said, it was what I was going to say, so I'm going to leave. I want to preface what I'm going to say with a story about an old couple that lived by the creek. So every day they'll venture out, collect fruit and tubers, and if they so felt like they wanted to have meat, they will throw a net in the creek and catch fish. So along came a developer, and he said, "This is a lovely place. You can do so much. You can build hotels. You can build many things here." And then they asked, "And then what?" And then he said, "Well, then you live a very comfortable life." And they said, "Well, you've gone a long way. We are already living a comfortable life." So the moral of the story is what we've done to our planet in the quest to live a comfortable life was a path of destruction. So we are working doubly hard to go back to where we were. It was lovely coming in late this afternoon, and it was raining. Particularly lovely for somebody who's coming from Botswana, a dry, arid country with very unpredictable weather. So I came late because I was dancing in the rain. So we should be very, very careful about what we're dealing with, especially the climate change part of it. For some of us, we bear the most brunt, but we pollute the least. But the undisputable truth is that no one will be spared. So there's a great need to collaborate. Collaborate not only in science, but in our indigenous knowledge systems, like the Maasai man was saying. Where I come from, early this year, my mother said, if you see a lot of fruit in a season, there's a high likelihood that there will be a drought. And I think we've thrown all that indigenous knowledge system out the window. So I want to agree with one of the panelists who said, we must think globally, we must coordinate regionally, and we must act locally. So with the skill set that Space SI was talking to, with the indigenous knowledge system, we can master, we can change the planet. Because if we do not change the planet will change us. And I want to end by quoting King Charles when he said at COP28 in Dubai, "The earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth." Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Right, as I said, our 4 or 5 speakers now are going to grab a mic, come up and do their 3 minutes, and they are going to respond to these 2 questions. What are the building blocks to doing better, to putting the world on track to meet environmental goals? And if there is one thing that we need to either change or embrace to reach this goal, what would that be? We asked the question this morning. We heard some fascinating interventions. We've had a whole day of discussion. Let's see what they're saying now. First up is Jane Burston, Chief Executive Officer and founder at the Clean Air Fund. Jane, come on up.
Thank you. So in London, where I've come from, just landed this morning, a 9-year-old girl died from a severe asthma attack, and the coroner wrote air pollution as the cause of death on her death certificate. In Delhi, an international cricket match was postponed because the visibility was so bad because of air pollution that the cricketers couldn't see the ball, and some of them were even vomiting on the pitch. And in Warsaw, until recently, citizens were breathing the air that was equivalent of 60 packets of cigarettes every year. Now, politicians in these places are taking bold and ambitious action to reduce air pollution, and that action also tackles climate change. In London, we've seen the mayor implement the ultra-low emissions zone, which prevents the dirtiest vehicles from going into the city centre. And already that covers 10 million people, and it's reducing roadside nitrogen dioxide by 35% and carbon dioxide by 6%. The government of India have introduced many measures on air quality, including one to reduce crop stubble burning by mandating 5% of biomass co-firing in thermal power plants. So it also reduces the use of coal. And in Warsaw, as well as a new low emission zone, and despite the war in Ukraine, the regional government of Masovia has recently implemented a domestic coal burning ban, despite as well the fact that Poland is the second largest coal producing country in the EU. So why are they all doing this? Because these measures are not without political risk. The reason that they're doing it is because air pollution is urgent in a way that, unlike climate change, most people can understand, and it affects us all right now. So if I was to pick one thing to tackle our environmental challenges, it would be to tackle climate change and air quality together. 3 quick reasons why. The first is that there's lots of opportunity to do so. We know that 2/3 of outdoor air pollution is from burning fossil fuels. So if the causes are the same, the solutions can also be the same. Renewable energy, clean public transport, more walking and cycling, greener industry. The second reason is that sometimes health-harming air pollutants are also very bad for the climate. One example is black carbon, or soot. It's warming in the atmosphere because it's black. When it lands on snow and ice, it accelerates the melting of that snow and ice because it's black and it's absorbing the heat. And it also is already changing monsoon patterns in India and West Africa. So it's increasing food insecurity and increasing the likelihood of flood risk. Despite that, black carbon and other superpollutants like ozone aren't currently included in our climate system, so they're not part of the Kyoto Protocol. Some countries are voluntarily putting them in their NDCs, about 17 countries so far, but it's not mandated. It's not even encouraged at the moment. And the third reason to work on air quality and climate change together is that the economic case is made much stronger when you do that. Action on air pollution pays for itself many times over because of the health benefits. It's not just the health systems savings, so not having to treat people who are sick. It's also the productivity benefit that you get when people can work because they're not off work sick or looking after sick children. And actually, Dalberg did a piece of research looking at the cost abatement curve for climate action. And they realized that when you factor in the health benefits and the cost savings because of the health benefits that aren't currently included in that, it doubles the amount of climate action, which is net positive. So if I was to pick one thing, it's working on these two together. The 3 actions I would take are measure the health benefit of our current climate action and talk about it a lot to motivate more. Number 2, include superpollutants in our climate system, NDCs, and the Kyoto Protocol. And number 3, factor the health benefits into the economic case as well. Thank you.
Brilliant. Jane, thank you very much indeed. Next up is Stephen Kokoda, Executive Director of the International Copper Association. Come on up, Stephen.
Thank you. So the minister from Botswana said he had to tear up his speech and rewrite something in 5 minutes. Well, Shireen just came up to me and said, "I want you to say something," so I had to come up with something, and I've got a bit of jet lag fog.
You're good at that, Stephen.
Well, yeah, thank you. So, yeah, the International Copper Association is one of the founding members of this forum. And it's so gratifying to see how the forum has grown over the years. I mean, this room was busting at the seams for a good part of the day. And I'm going to not do exactly what Shireen asked me to do. She wanted some reflections, but I was asked a question, a two-part question at lunch. And I'm going to not say who asked the questions, but I'm going to share the discussion that we had. And what she asked was, what does the business community get out of this? I mean, why do you come to the forum? Why do you contribute? What is the value that you receive from this? And there's no hesitation in my response. I said it provides an avenue, it's a vehicle for us to get our perspectives into these discussions, which we otherwise wouldn't have. And its ability for us to take perspectives, for me to take back to my industry and ensure that these perspectives go into the collective thinking of an industry. And then, what I said was, and then we have a voice with governments, and they could hear, what we need. What are the policies that we need? This, Shireen or UNEA refers to this policy cohesion. And that's so important to us, and I can't describe how valuable it is. So that's why we take part in the forum. I mean, look, it's always gratifying to see these three groups come together and the amazing amount of knowledge and experience that just flows throughout the course of the day. And the last point I'll make is the forum has grown, so there's obviously people that are new to the forum. Maybe this is your first one. Look, I encourage you to speak to Shireen, to speak to her team, and to talk about how you could collaborate more outside of this, this one day of the forum. There's activities, collaboration going on throughout the course of the year, and those collaborations will ensure that the forum continues to be successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. Another regular on the forum scene is Professor Maria Ivanova, Director, School of Public Policy and Urban Affairs at Northeastern University. Great to see you here, Maria.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be back, because it has been going on for a few years. This forum is amazing. It brings together science, policy, business, but it's missing something. So we're here today to talk about problems that we know. We know because science has shown the problems. We're here today because we even know the solutions, policy, or engineering, or business solutions. What we do not have enough is inspiration, and what we have not done yet is to be mobilized. So I'm here today to talk about one thing, one actionable big idea, and that is to create an art and academia alliance. You're seeing the art images already, and that's what's been missing from this forum. Yes, we've had science, we've had policy, we've had business. We have not had the art and inspiration. Why art? Art appeals to us in a different way. It tickles our imagination. It makes us think different. It also points to social issues that are critical. Think of Frida Kahlo, Mexican artist from the 1930s, of her portraits, of her depictions of the difference between the North and the South, between the US and Mexico, of her vehement struggle for women's rights, indigenous rights, workers' rights. Then think of artist Benjamin von Wong, whose 30-foot sculpture of a faucet spewing plastic waste was right there on the green in front of UNEP during UNEA 5. That shocked us. That art shocked us. It